Hi, and welcome to the Comfy Red Couch. My name is Tracy, and I'm your host. And today I am coming to you from Toronto, where this morning it was a very gray day. But now that the afternoon has come along, the sun has come out, and I think it might be bringing a little bit of spring with it, which is quite an interesting thing for mid-February because, the groundhog saw its shadows. So I was thinking it was going to be late March before we actually started seeing spring, but the past couple of days, it's felt a little bit more springy than it has in a while. And you know that fresh air you sort of smell when the first few days of spring comes? I was smelling that a couple times this week as I popped over to Tim Hortons to get my roll up the rim. And it just sort of felt really positive, and I was happy to think that spring is nearer than I would imagine it would have been in the first place. So mid-February, I'll take some sunshine today for sure. Actually, last week when I went to UNIT, I told everyone on the podcast last week that I went over to get a couple of skeins. And as I was driving home, I was stopped at a stoplight and I looked up, and in a tree I saw a robin in February. And the robins don't usually come back here until the end of March, if we're lucky, early April. So to see this poor little robin in a tree in February just sort of made me feel bad for this poor little bird because it was so cold. And then later that week it kept snowing, so it just snowed and snowed and snowed all weekend. So the poor little bird, I hate to think of how it was surviving this past week. But yeah, a robin in Toronto in February was very, very strange indeed. So today on the podcast, I have lots to share with you. I have a finished object to share. I have a half-finished object to share. And I have a work in progress to share, as well as something I haven't shared in a very, very long time, and that would be some sewing. So we're going to have a Material Girl segment today, which has not happened in a very, very long time. So I'm very excited about that. So where you can find me, I am Tracy RR on Ravelry, and I am Comfy Red Couch on Instagram. Another thing I almost forgot was to say welcome to everybody to the podcast. And if you are a returning viewer, you know that I always love having you. So I hope that you've got your cup of tea and your project of choice and you're ready to sit down with me on the Comfy Red Couch. And if you are a new viewer to the podcast, or you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome. I hope that you have a chance to just sit down, grab something warm to drink, or if you're in a warmer climate, something cool to drink. And I hope that you've got some time to just sit down and join me as I talk about knitting and crafting and all those lovely things that we like to do. So let's get started with some tea time. And today I am drinking some David's tea. I am drinking the organic blueberry jam, and today I just sort of felt like a little bit of fruity but with some black tea as well. I woke up with a bit of a headache, so I needed something with a bit of caffeine, so the blueberry jam seemed a perfect way to go. So there are little blueberries in there, there are cornflowers and elderberry as well, and lots of black tea, which is great because this morning when I woke up with a headache, I knew I needed black tea to start getting rid of it. So that's what I've done. So that is David's tea and blueberry jam, and that's just a nice standby to have every once in a while. And I will grab my cup. Scout is standing in front of me. Today I am drinking out of my Julia Smith ceramics mug, and this is my rainy day mug. And today I'm drinking out of this one because I guess I'm hopefully sort of trying to will some springtime to come our way, and those, that idea of April showers bringing May flowers, I'd like them to come a little bit earlier. So maybe some February showers to bring some March flowers. That's what I'm really hoping for. So with my David's blueberry jam tea, I'm going to say cheers, and here's to a lovely little bit of crafting for you as I chatter away about all those lovely things. So cheers. I love David's blueberry jam. It is now time for a segment I have not had for ages and ages, and that is Material Girl. And this week, I'm going to tell you, I had a really hot date. And you're going to think it was Valentine's Day. Of course you did. You know, you went out with your husband. No, 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 no. It was better than that. I had a date with my seam ripper. So I grabbed this baby, and I grabbed this baby, and I took out all of the edging that I had put all around this dress that I started making last June, and just didn't like how the trim was fitting. So it was a very long afternoon date, but at the end of it, I just felt so fantastic to finally have the edging taken off, and I am now ready to start again and choose a different color. The pattern that I'm doing is a Butterick Retro pattern. It is B4790, and it looks like this. And I am doing the blue version with the red trim around the edges and on the neckline as well. So I am doing that in the green polka dot. And originally when I had first started, I thought I was going to use a beige sort of color as the trim. And I just didn't love it after I washed the material, and I had to make my own bias tape. And then I thought what I would do is I would use remaining material, and I created bias tape from the wrong side of the fabric. And it was very heavy and bulky, and it looked terrible, so I was not happy with it. So I decided to actually go out and purchase a different bias tape, and I was thinking either a pink or a purple was what I was, because pink and green, I love it. And purple sometimes goes very nicely with green as well. So I thought I would go to the local Fabricland and see what was there. So what I did yesterday was I went over to the Fabricland. Isaac came with me and he helped me choose out the pink. And it was between two pinks. It was between this bright pink. This is petal pink. And it was between a lighter pink as well. But I went with the brighter, and I think it'll really just pop around the edges of the dress. And then there will be some buttons in the front, so I wasn't sure which ones to go with, so I chose just some plain pink ones to go on top of the pink bias tape, or some floral pink that are see-through, so when the bias tape is behind, it'll look a little bit different. I did look and I saw a green see-through button, but unfortunately they weren't the correct size, but they would have looked really nice, I think, on top of this bright pink. So when I got home, I grabbed my buddy here, and we had, as I said, a hot date and spent the afternoon. Nathaniel was with us, so it was, you know, he was a little bit of a third wheel as he tried to read Scaredy Squirrel to me, but it was all good. It was so good. So I did take all of the edging off, and I'll just put these in front of me. And the way the dress works, basically, because it's pretty much done, is the front. So the front wraps around to the back and does up in the back, and then the back wraps around to the front and then does up. So the pink bias tape adds a really pretty edging, and that's where I would attach the buttons as well, and then you'd be able to keep it done up in the front as well. So it's sort of an interesting wraparound dress, and it's just a pullover, so you basically pop it over your head like this, and right now it is very rough, and so once it's on, it just wraps around, and I think it'll be really quite pretty, especially once it's got that bit of pink on it as well. So for Material Girl, I haven't hit the sewing machine yet, but just the fact that this has been waiting since June to have a date with the seam ripper, it's now February, I'm finally there. So that made me very, very happy indeed, and it was a very, very productive date. And at the end of it, I didn't get dinner out, but that's okay. I think I can handle it. Anyway, so I will continue to work on this. I'm going to take it a little bit slower than when I originally started this dress. I was trying to meet a deadline, which I did not because I couldn't stand how the bias tape looked. So I'm not going to be able to wear it till spring and nearing summer, so probably May anyway. So I think I will take my time, make sure I've done it properly. I was looking at a dress form that was on sale at Fabricland, so I'm thinking one thing that, now that I've put the dress on and pulled it off, one thing that I really hate doing is hemming. And I find it very, very difficult to do, especially because, you know, put the dress on, you can't bend down to hem because, of course, you know, if you bend down, you throw your hem off. And there's no one around here who would really be great at helping me since they're all boys in the house. And even though Nathaniel and Isaac can be a little bit crafty sometimes, I don't think I'd fully trust them to do the hem of a dress with pins and things like that. So I'm thinking that the dress form might be a really great way to help me hem and also to make sure things are fitting along the way. So something I am contemplating getting. I was thinking of asking for one for Christmas, and now that I've seen the one at Fabricland on sale, I think I might just bite the bullet and get myself a dress form, because then maybe I'll end up in the sewing room a little bit more than I am right now. Anyway, that is Material Girl for the week, and I'm not sure when our next Material Girl segment will be, but it certainly has been nice to pull it out of the archives. This week on My Favorite Things, I have lots to share with you. I did mention that I have a finished object, and I also have a half-finished object. I have a bit of a woeful tale about my work in progress, and I have a little contest for you, so definitely excited to share that with you too. So let's start off talking about some socks. My poor 'Twas the Night Before Christmas socks did not get any love this week. I'd kind of been hoping that I might get to them by today. I did not. My poor Wildflowers and Honeycomb socks, even though I put the second sock on the needles last week, also did not get any love. And there's a really good reason why those lovely pairs of socks did not get any attention that they rightfully deserve. And that was because this past week, Danny of Little Bobbins came out with a new pattern, the Cyril socks. So Valentine's Day, Danny released a new sock pattern, which was so exciting. And I was at work and I saw them and I thought, oh my goodness, I know what I'm doing tonight. I am going to go home and I am going to paw through my Viola stash and I am going to find a lovely little bag and I am going to cast on these socks. And that's what I did. So that's why no work got done on any other socks. And in fact, my Brioche Ponchology got put to the wayside because socks became the priority. And the lovely Viola yarn that I chose is called Rose Gold Dust. And this is on her sock. And I love Viola yarns. It's really funny. You'll pull the skein out and you'll look at it and think, it's pretty. And then you wind it and you go, very pretty. And then you start knitting with it and it is pure alchemy. It just turns into magic. It is beautiful, beautiful stuff. So this is my Rose Gold Dust skein of yarn, and as you can see, it is almost halved, because over the week, I started Wednesday night, I have a half-finished object. So I have one sock completely done. I finished it last night. And what was really interesting is I probably would have finished this on Friday, except for Thursday night. So I started it on Wednesday, got the cuff and I believe one repeat done. And then I took it to work with me and I had little bits of time to work in the morning and then at lunch. And brought it home, worked away, got it down to the heel and realized that I had been doing one of the rounds in the pattern, the repeat, consistently wrong. So that was not good. So I decided, what do? Pull it back. So I pulled it all the way back to the cuff on Thursday night and put it back on the needles Thursday night before I went to work. Friday, I had a chance to do some knitting during the day, and it was fantastic because I got down to probably about here. So after sort of having to pull out, I didn't have to, but I chose to pull it out because I wanted to respect the beautiful pattern that Danny created and make sure I did it right, and also respect my beautiful Viola yarn. So I wanted to make sure I had the pattern right. And so that's what I did. And I turned the heel on Friday night when I got home, and then I actually got to about here Friday night, and then I had 2 repeats of the pattern left to do and the toe, and I am now done a sock. So super, super happy with this. Lovely pattern. It was, for me to knit a sock in a day and a bit, even after pulling it out and restarting, is amazing. So definitely a beautiful, beautiful pattern, and I always love Viola yarn. And just the little beautiful speckles. It's got a beautiful heel. It's got a square heel on the base as well. Just a lovely pattern to work with. So the great thing about this is that there are going to be 3 patterns in this collection. So this is Cyril, and there's a beautiful story that goes along with these socks, and it's called the Vintage Love Story Collection, and it's based on Danny's engagement ring. She has a vintage 1920s engagement ring, and what she says in the pattern is that there's an inscription inside her ring that says Cyril and Rita. And so these are the Cyril socks. I'm guessing there's probably going to be a Rita sock as well. And then I have no idea what the 3rd pattern will be, but I'm just excited to find out what those are going to be. So really lovely to know that Danny's 2nd pair of socks, because her 'Twas the Night Before Christmas was her 1st pair, is not going to be the last pair. So they are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I am absolutely adoring this pattern, and I am so glad that I went back and corrected my mistake, because now you can see that there are little rings, little circles in the pattern, where before I had done them wrong because I had twisted the stitch the wrong way. So very easy pattern to memorize, but if you memorize it wrong, you're going to have a problem. So super glad that I went back and changed it, because that makes me smile, and I hope that I have something that will make you smile, and that is that the lovely Danny of Little Bobbins has kindly given us a prize of the Cyril socks, the pattern, to give away on the podcast. So if you would love to win a copy of this gorgeous pattern, all you need to do is to go over to the group on Ravelry, so that's the Comfy Red Couch group. And what I would love you to do, and this will be a chatter-free thread, so just pictures, I would love to have a thread just filled with a picture of the yarn that you would use to make these socks. So this may be a yarn that you have in your stash and you just need to post a photograph of that yarn, or it may be a yarn that you've seen that someone else has used, or whatever. Just all you need to do is post a photograph of the yarn that you would love to use to make these. As I said, if we can keep it chatter free, because it would be really great to just be able to do a random number generator, and if there's chatter, I then have to delete the post that has chatter in it, and then that throws the number scheme off. So chatter free would be perfect, and this is a wonderful, wonderful sock, and definitely the pattern is a wonderful, wonderful prize. So a huge thank you to Danny for donating that prize to us, and I'm going to draw the number next week, or the name of the person for next week who will win those. So if you would like to enter for this beautiful pattern, I'm just asking you to post your photo of the yarn that you would choose in the Comfy Red Couch thread that I'm going to create, and you will have until Sunday 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you'll need to figure out what time that is for you. I'll close the thread at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning next week, and then as I'm preparing for the podcast, I will draw a name, and the person whose name is drawn gets a free pattern, which I think is a fabulous, fabulous prize. So that is one of the things I got up to this week with a contest, so even better. Since Wednesday, the cereal socks have been taking up most of my time. However, before that, and a little bit yesterday, I worked on my Brioche Ponchology, which is getting huge. And I already had enough trouble fitting it in this bag last week, but this week it's getting even bigger. And I have added, because since last Sunday, I have added a little bit more. I did not get to the pink, which was what I was hoping to, but that's because that fabulous pattern came up and I just couldn't resist. So I am still in the beige, or what I called the sand last week, section of the Brioche Ponchology, and this is a pattern by Suzanne Sommer. But as I was putting it away last night, I realized I had a bit of a mistake. And my mistake is right where the pin is. I did not add an increase here and here. So I forgot 2 increases on the side of the poncho. So my goal today is to go in here and to create a new stitch, and that is going to be adding basically a brioche knit yarn over brioche knit, which is a very difficult stitch to be inserting in here. So I'm going to pull it back and I'm going to try my best to put it in there. I'm afraid it's going to be super messy, but hopefully when it's all blocked out, the only person who will notice this will be me. It's basically going back 8 rounds of brioche, which is 16 rounds. So I could do it nicely, or I could just sort of pop it back, pop it in, and then create an extra line. So I think that's what I'm going to try to do first. And if I can do that, fantastic. If it looks really, really horrible, then I might backtrack. But who really wants to do that? Not me. Sometimes my mind is like a gnat when I am knitting, and in this case, it was. And in fact, where this little bobble is, that's where I had left off, and this is what I knit last night after I put my sock down, and my hot date, which is sitting over there. And I just didn't count beforehand and just thought everything was all right. And then when I put it away, I went, oh, that's a problem. Anyway, Brioche Ponchology, it is coming along. It is a fun knit, but definitely has had its challenges with my mind being like a gnat. Soon though, I'm hoping to get to the pink very, very soon. And in the meantime, I will put this back into my lovely bag from Vicky of Bird Leg Bags. And when I was at the doctor's on Monday doing my shots, I was working on this, and the woman next to me said how gorgeous my bag was, and she thought it was really, really well made. So I did let Vicky know that it was appreciated when I was out in the world, and it is really a gorgeous bag for sure. Oh, and I have something also very, very exciting that I've popped into this bag to share, because if you've watched the podcast before, you know I tend to hide candy in here because then candy brings me back. So on Wednesday, I was given this lovely little tin of chocolates. My husband stopped by work and brought me this, and also brought me a little card. So that was a nice little surprise to have someone drop by and give me a Valentine. I did get another really fun Valentine's gift from one of my coworkers. So it was nice to have my husband drop off with some chocolates, but my coworker gave me a framed photo for Valentine's Day. So when I walked in to my office, I found a little bag, pulled out the photo, and this is what the photo was. And it made me laugh so hard. I have mentioned this coworker before on the podcast. He is the one when I was doing Vlogmas and I was hanging the Christmas balls on the Christmas tree. He drove by and then the next day he said, "I saw you hanging your balls outside." So yes, he has quite the sense of humor, and he is just absolutely wonderful to work with, and he knows that I was sharing this on the podcast today. So anyway, that was a really fun Valentine's. We also had the secret friend going on at work this week, and I did have a secret friend, and I went with a Paris theme for them. So I gave them lots of little Paris themed treats, and I also got some lovely things as well from my secret friend, and I don't know who my secret friend was, but I got some chocolate and I got some Starbucks, a gift card for Starbucks and a mug with some beautiful tulips in it as well. So it was just a lovely week. It's always a great week in the middle of February to have a secret friend that you can surprise and can surprise you as well. So I would have loved to have had him as my secret person because I would have had just so much fun because he's really quite naughty, but a lovely naughty for sure. Anyway, so that was a fun Valentine's surprise for both getting a lovely visit from my husband and also a fun photo of my coworker. Okay, enough about Valentine's Day. This is a knitting podcast. Let's get back to the knitting. And the next thing I'm going to share with you was in my fun Nancy Drew bag. And this was a super secret project that I started on back in November. And every once in a while I'd share my Nancy Drew with you and say, oh, she's got some clues, she's got some secrets. Well, the past week and a bit, there have been some clues released sharing what was in this bag. So I am actually able to finally share that with you. And I'm going to share the yarn first. This is Hedgerow Yarns, and this colorway is called Pipkin. And I use this yarn to knit up a very special pattern that Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade created for L'Année magazine. So the magazine isn't going to be released until Tuesday. So in fact, Nancy's letting this out of the bag a little bit early, but Helen has shown photographs on Ravelry and on Instagram of these socks. They are called the Fragment Socks, and these are the gorgeous socks that Helen designed for L'Année magazine. So let's just focus on one at a time. So it's got a beautiful pattern that goes up the leg. Now mine have an extra pattern repeat because that's what testing is all about, and so mine will be a little bit different than the pattern that is released in the magazine, so you'll just be a little bit shorter than mine, which is probably okay anyway. But I did use this gorgeous Hedgerow yarns, lots of speckles, and I think that because of the lightness of the yarn, it really shows off the pattern really nicely. So very excited to finally share this pattern with you, and it was such a lovely secret to keep for sure. And Nancy Drew, I think, kept a pretty good secret. So there is the pattern, just little chevrons and a lovely flap heel, and just always fun to knit one of Helen's sock patterns. Now I did make a slight change in the toe. I like a little bit of a wider toe, so in the pattern it goes a little bit more narrow. I kept it a little bit wider just because I don't want to be a ballerina on point. But beautiful pattern, beautiful yarn, and definitely happy that I can finally share the Fragment Socks with you. So, yay! Now that Nancy is going away for a little bit. She shared her wares. I have one more sort of teaser. Nancy's going to have to keep an eye on this one. In the fun bag that my lovely sister-in-law gave me back during Vlogmas, I have another secret project. So I decided that I liked this bag because it's just been Valentine's Day and this little kitty is holding a lovely knit heart. So this is the bag I have decided, and I have a fun secret project in here that I will hopefully be able to share with you in not too distant future. So I've got my yarn all picked out. It's all wound up. I just need to get cast on and start knitting. And in the meantime, this is going to be the bag I use. And that's the mystery that Nancy and I are going to leave you off with now for my favorite things. The mailman was pretty good to me this week and brought me some lovely things. And the first thing I'm going to start off with, on Monday I came home and I had some gorgeous Nora George yarn, and this is one of the lovely skeins, and this is Snowdrop, and this is from the Flower Power Fund. This was the January special colorway for the Flower Power Fund, and I bought it in regular super sock and also on gorgeous sparkle because I needed both. And yes, I had already bought some Snowdrop from Hedgerow as well. I guess I just want lots of Snowdrops because I want those flowers in my life. So these are the two lovely skeins of Nora George Snowdrop. And I have an idea of what I'm going to make with one of the skeins. I'm not sure what I will do with the other one, but they are beautiful yarns for sure. I have ordered the next installment of the Flower Power Fund, so the February yarn, and that's called Hellebore, and that is by Down Sheepy Lane. And of course, last week I shared my Winter Rose socks, the pattern that Helen Stewart had designed for the Sock Society, and that was the first pattern. So I definitely was excited to get the Hellebore, and I've seen a couple of socks already knit, the Winter Rose pattern done in Hellebore, and they look beautiful. So I'm excited to be getting that yarn soon as well. So I've got the January Flower Power, and I'm going to be getting the February, and I guess I will see if I will continue getting the rest of the months because they are very beautiful for sure. The next thing that came in the mail was from the lovely So Sweet Violet, and I love the butterfly clips, and they are Liberty of London butterflies, and they are on bobby pins, as we call them in Canada, and I think also in the US. I think they're hair grips in the UK. So I bought some turquoise, and I bought blue and purple, and I bought yellow and pink, and I bought orange and coral. I bought all of the colors, and I bought a set for myself, and I bought a set for my lovely niece Violet, although I am going to keep two of the turquoise for myself. So I've got two of each color, and so these will be for Violet, and I'm just so excited to put lots of pretty colors in my hair, and I'm really excited to share those with her. And hopefully I will get to her dress soon too, now that I've sort of got that sewing bug happening a little bit. I find I tend to want to sew a lot in the spring and summer, but the winter I don't seem to get into it as much. So maybe now that I'm feeling that spring bug, maybe some sewing is going to happen. The next thing is also from So Sweet Violet, and I bought a nautical themed bunting, and this is going to be for Nathaniel's room. And Nathaniel has a pirate ship theme in his room. He's got some pillows that have pirate ships on it, and his curtains have pirate ships. So I thought this would be a fun accent to put on his wall, and when he saw them on Etsy, he thought they were wonderful and wanted me to get them as well. So I had already bought them at that point, but I just thought these would be really fun to put in his room. I also bought another special treat for me to put in my knitting/sewing room, and that's up on the 3rd floor, and I bought myself a rainbow bunting to put in my room, and I'm hoping that this beautiful rainbow will inspire me to go up there a little bit more often and do the sewing that I have been wanting to do for such a long time, and just make that space just so beautiful and fun. So Jules' beautiful makes are wonderful and just such a lovely thing to display around my house, and just bright, happy colors make me happy as well. So love these, and Nathaniel is going to love this as well. And yes, it is a very indulgent purchase to make, but sometimes we need beauty in our lives, and I just love being able to have the beauty of my Instagram friends' makes all around me. I have one more thing to share from Jules, and I really loved my iridescent wish ball, and I decided I needed a bit of a Valentine-y kind of colorway one. So I'm going to put these on a couple of my bags because I really actually like them as poles. And Jules threw in one of her beautiful robin pins. So I am really, really looking forward to spring, and robins to me are spring, as I talked about earlier, and this was just such a lovely little extra gift that Jules threw in for me, and I really, really appreciate that. I do have a couple more things to share, and a couple of Fridays ago I stopped by the Mustache online shop to see what was there, and Martian Rainbow was in stock, and I have been wanting Martian Rainbow for quite some time, so I was happy to pop this in. But I don't like to buy just one because of the shipping and all of that. I also purchased Jelly Belly, so I had had my eye on this one because it was just shortly in the shop before, but Martian Rainbow was out, so when both were in stock, I was able to pop both into a cart and purchase them. Now I purchased this on the Friday night, and I believe I got this in the mail on Tuesday. So super, super quick delivery for sure. Not that I'm trying to enable, but if you do have a chance to pop over to Mustache, you should see how the Jelly Belly knits up. It's really quite interesting because it's got a thick, light pastel colored stripe and then a very, very thin, brighter stripe. So if you look at the light pastels, there's the pink and the purple and the yellow and the blue. And then there are shots of much darker colors. So the dark green, the darker pink, there's a bit of a red there, and a bright blue. And so you get the light pastel with a defining line. So the Jelly Belly is quite a beautiful, beautiful yarn. And when I knit my La Belle et la Bête socks, Mustache was just so lovely to work with. So I do have a few Mustache yarns in my stash because you mustache. And that is something that popped by my mailbox this week. The final thing I have to share with you is a swap that I did with the lovely Christine, who, when we had the Spirit of Autumn knit along, she was the first name drawn from the 4 people that had entered the Spirit of Autumn knit along. And Christine had said she wanted to send me a couple of skeins of yarn, and I said, well, I'm doing it as a swap. And so she has some lovely Canadian things that I sent her way. But she super, super spoiled me. So this gorgeous bag, which this fabric, I adore it. I received this on Tuesday. And Tuesday was the 13th of February. And 4 years before that, my husband and I had flown out to London. So to receive this on the 13th of February was just such a lovely bit of nostalgia because, of course, it had all those lovely London bits. And oh, just every time I look at this, I see something new. You think that, you know, it's all there, and then you see, you know, oh, there's you know, St. Paul's is in here, and you maybe didn't notice it before, and there's just lovely pots and cups of tea, and oh, there's just, I love this fabric. It's so fun. And then I found out that Christine actually made this herself, and she made this for me, and it's got these beautiful little hearts all the way around, so perfect for Valentine's Day. And the fabric inside are wonderful teapots. So a very super special bag made just for me, made me feel just super special, because how else could you not? So Christine did a fabulous job. I asked her if she sells them. She does not, but I think they are so well done that maybe she should. Anyway, inside this bag, I have some lovely, lovely things to share, including a beautiful skein of Countess Ablaze, and I have not had Countess Ablaze yarn before, and this is called Afternoon Tea, and it's just such a fun, bright, got the little shots of teal and purple, and today I'm drinking blueberry jam. This is a perfect skein to knit with as I drink blueberry jam tea, I think. And then there was this absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. And this is from Peak District Yarns, and it is called Wonderful Worksworth. And it's a 75 merino, 25% nylon, and it is just so soft and squishy, and the colors are amazing. And I have no idea what to knit with this, but I am so excited to figure that one out. So super, super spoiled for sure. And then there were lots of other little goodies that I have to share, and there is a beautiful card for me, and there was a vintage tea time recipe book, and it's filled with scone recipes and shortbread recipes, and it's just a lovely little cookbook for me to sit down and actually, you know, honey cake with ginger, lots of inspiring photos, and I love afternoon tea, so definitely something to aspire to making. And I have a beautiful tin of Wittard, and it's got this beautiful picture of the Alice in Wonderland tea party, and there's a little bit of an afternoon tea Alice in Wonderland tea theme here, because there was this really fun down the rabbit hole tea strainer, and there is Alice. Put some tea in, and yes, I have gone down the rabbit hole, not only with tea, but with yarn, with so many things for sure. And then there was a lovely soap, and this is a fig and brown sugar soap, which smells really, really nice. So now that I've shown it to you, I can put it in the new shower and use it, keep it away from all the yucky boys in my house. And there were some lovely Progress Keepers as well. So I got really, really spoiled on this swap. The next things that I have to share with you are little but beautiful, beautiful. And the first thing is this gorgeous enamel pin, and it's a Manchester bee. And Christine was saying that after the arena bombing in Manchester last May, these little bees have been, I guess, a symbol of the strength of the people of Manchester. But it is one of the most gorgeous enamel pins I have ever seen. The wings are just so sparkly, and it's just so well made. I absolutely love this pin, and I really do love honeybees, so maybe not being stung by them, but I really love bee pins and things like that. So just, I have a little pin that the bee comes apart, and you can change the color of the wings from gold to silver. So always just like a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for little bees. So a beautiful Manchester bee that I will be putting on one of my bags. And I was almost tempted to put it on my yellow fringe bag. And if you've heard me talk about my yellow fringe bag before, no pins are going on that one. So this, I think, for me is the catalyst to get the blue fringe bag that I have been wanting, and then I can put my pins on. Although someone was sharing their pins on their fringe bag, and their bag's starting to get a little bit heavy. So many beautiful pins. And then I had these gorgeous little progress keepers, and it is a silver teapot, which reminds me of when we went to the Goring for tea. So just this whole package arriving when it did was just amazing. And then this lovely little mug, and it's on a progress keeper as well, just one of the little lobster claw clasps. And it just reminds me of a perfect little mug for some brewer tea. So cheers. And then that's not all that Christine sent me. Now, I'm going to have to admit to you, this is for me to share, and I don't want to. I want to keep these for me, or at least one of them for me. Cadbury mini eggs. Now, we do sell Cadbury mini eggs in Canada. They are not as good, and you know what? They don't have speckles on them. So I think I'm going to have to ask Christine if I could just buy the boys some like Canadian mini eggs and keep these for myself, because I love Cadbury Easter chocolate. Easter cream eggs and I are best friends at Easter time, as are these babies. So I'm not sure I can share. Is that bad? Maybe. In the meantime, I'm going to hide them in my gorgeous London project bag that I'm going to put a project in very, very soon. So a huge thank you to Christine for doing the swap with me. I hope that she likes her things as much as I loved mine. And Christine is in the process of making me another bag, and I will be sending some David's tea her way. So I did send some David's tea as part of our swap. She got, I called it Sweet Tart, but I think it's I called it Love Hearts, but it's called Sweet Tart because the Love Heart brand in Canada is called Sweet Tart. So that's the kind of tea that I sent her. That was the Valentine's tea, and I got a little message from her earlier today. So she was watching Inside Number 23 and knitting and drinking some Sweet Tart tea, and it sounded like she had a lovely afternoon while I'm podcasting. So always a fun time to drink David's tea while we are podcasting and watching podcasts for sure. Sneak a little sip of cold tea in there. Anyway, I have to say that is all for brown paper packages this week. And as usual, that's probably enough. And now it's time for some bits and bobs, and this is my segment where I share lots of other things that are happening. So I did talk a little bit about Valentine's Day and how my husband came to work, and also that my coworker gave me a lovely photograph of himself for me to put in my office. So that was a fun way to spend Valentine's. It was a quiet Valentine's Day. I stayed home with Nathaniel and Isaac, and Greg was out working that evening. So that's the way it goes, and that's okay. And the rest of the week was fairly quiet. I did do a first aid and CPR training on Friday. I did get some knitting done as well as we were doing the lecture part, so that was kind of a nice thing. And it's amazing, when I was in my late teens and up until my late 20s, I used to actually lifeguard, and every couple of years you would have to recertify your first aid, your CPR, and all of your lifeguarding awards. And it's amazing, almost like muscle memory with knitting, how it sort of comes back. I mean, there are certainly some changes to the CPR where, you know, it had been different number of compressions to breaths and all of those things, and that has changed. So I had to make sure I was able to remember the latest way to do it, although it's better to do something than nothing for sure. And but it's nice to be recertified again and have my first aid and CPR training, and now I am one of several people at work that are qualified in that. So having the first aid training and the CPR training is always a fantastic thing to have, so I'm definitely glad that I have recertified and got that valid for another 3 years. So speaking of recertifications and renewals, I realized the other day that we need to renew Nathaniel's passport, and that's because he got his first passport when he was an infant, and at that point they're only valid for 3 years. So his passport is a little bit off compared to Greg's, Isaac's, and mine. So we now need to get him renewed, and once we've got him renewed, then I think we're a little bit closer. Greg and I now have 10-year passports, and Isaac still has a 5-year passport because he is still considered a child, although he's 16 now, so I think he will be able to renew his next passport as a 10-year, but that'll be his job to do because I think he'll be 18 when that one expires. So got to keep on top of it. It's amazing how quickly they expire. So I've got to get Nathaniel over to get photographs done, and then of course get the paperwork done and get him to the passport office. And I'm not sure when I'm going to get that done, but it does expire in July, and I think that we've got to keep it valid for 6 months before. So I'm not sure if we go down to visit my sister-in-law, whether we will get stopped at the border and sent back or what will happen. So got to get that renewed as soon as possible. So maybe in March when I've got a few days off, we'll do that. I'll figure that out. It is a long weekend in Ontario. It's the Family Day weekend. And ironically, I am having Family Day all by myself. The boys have gone to my parents' for today and tomorrow, and I have opted to stay home and have a quiet rest of the weekend, which I'm kind of glad because it's been a very busy time at work. And I'm looking forward to just having a day to relax, knit, figure out how to fix my Brioche Ponchology, and just have a day to myself, so that will be exciting. Otherwise, bits and bobs, I have gone out for a couple of times this week, and I've sort of had that feeling that spring is in the air, and I'm feeling that renewal and that energy that spring often brings, and I'm just looking forward to starting to see some of those crocuses come up once the snow starts to melt. So it's nice knowing that we are halfway through February, beyond halfway through, and I am looking forward to the days getting lighter in the evenings and also a little bit brighter in the morning. We'll be doing a time change soon in early March, so looking forward to that as well. Otherwise, I don't think much is going on in regards to bits and bobs, and that is where I'll leave you with that today. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast this week. I hope that you've had a chance to just sit and relax, rest for a few minutes as we've chatted away about all the beautiful, crafty things that we've been working on. And I hope that you've had a chance to make a dent in your project of choice and that you've enjoyed a nice, either hot or cold beverage, whatever it is that you've needed. And I look forward to seeing you next week on the Comfy Red Couch. Have a wonderful week ahead. Bye. Put sock down. Drop it. Drop it. You gonna bring it up? Come on. Come on. You heard I was talking about socks today? Scout heard I was talking about socks today. Thankfully, she does not put the hand knit socks in her mouth. Partially because I won't let her.